Hello! Today we are going to sketch Iron Man's helmet. First, let's customize our settings. I like to start with infinite-sized white paper and to search active layer only. Today I'm using my Wacom Bamboo Fine Line 2. It has a one-button shortcut, all I really need to set as undo. Next, let's set our favorite tools. In this first phase, let's use two pen tools, a fill tool, selection, and the eraser. Let's set our pens to be one blue and the other black. On the bottom layer, I'm going to import a helmet reference from my photo library. I will be sketching the Mark V helmet today. It's one of my favorite designs because of all the extra details. If you guys can remember, the Mark V was Tony Stark's first portable suit. Let's erase the excess parts of the picture. We'll be drawing the 3/4 view of this helmet. Let's lower the opacity of the image so that we can clearly see what we are sketching on top of it. We're going to start a rough outline using the blue pen tool at the smallest stroke size and start on a layer above our image layer. I want to start outlining the overall shape of the helmet first, so I can select then convert it to black. Okay, let's continue outlining the rest of the details in blue. Iron Man has a lot of aggressive bevels and angles. It's kind of his signature design. I always like to keep my layers organized, so I name it whenever I get the chance to. For the faceplate, I'm going to use a black pen to show that it's a different part on the mask. Let me just double check that I've sketched the more busy parts on top of the helmet here and here. Now, on a new top layer, let's start refining our sketch. I'm going to lower the opacity on the rough outline layer so I can clearly see what I'm drawing. I'm starting with a black pen tool at a slightly thicker stroke with the fastest method I like to use for cleaner lines. I draw the strokes as precisely as possible, then select it to smoothen to a higher percentage. Plus, the Iron Man design is so angular that a lot of his lines are straight. In this layer, I'm drawing all the main features like the main shape, the faceplate, and his intense eyes. After naming this the thicker lines layer, let's start a new top layer for the rest of the details. I'll be drawing these details in a thinner stroke with a lighter opacity black pen tool. It's really all these bevels that clearly depict that it's the Mark V suit. I think it's because the Mark V is designed for its modularity and compactness, so all its parts need to fold into each other. Hence, all of these lines. This top part right here is slightly indented and with an ascending angle. I'm just naming this as the thinner lines layer. And it's time to hide our rough outline layer. Now to the fun part. Let's rearrange our favorites a little and include more rendering tools. I'll be using two fills and an airbrush. First, I'm using the fill tool and looking for a mid-tone kind of cool gray to be the faceplate base color. Then I'm moving this new layer beneath the thin and thick refined outline layers. I'm just dragging fill around the general shape of the faceplate here. Because I'm starting the cool gray fill with 100% opacity, filling the small gaps I missed blends just perfectly. Since I went over the outline on some part, I'll just be erasing all that extra gray. Now that it's mostly clean, it's time for the highlights on the faceplate, and I'll be using a wider stroke airbrush with white. Then for the darker shadows, I'll switch the color to a lighter opacity black. This looks pretty good to me. And to clean it up, Let's change the paper color to a darker color so that I can see all the excess white parts from the airbrush. And let's just erase everything outside the mask. And let's continue back to the white paper color. Now, on a new layer above the faceplate, let's select Fill again, and this time with black. You can't really see the lines here. Let's lower the opacity for now, and let's change it back to 100% opacity. Just gotta get this darker gray underneath the eye cutout. Looks like I missed some airbrush on the faceplate layer. Let me just go back and erase it. Now for Iron Man's signature red. In the first movie, for Mark III, Tony actually called it a hot rod red. Let's fill the general area with this Copic R29 and clean it a bit. For shading above this red base layer, let's choose a more darker and purple red for airbrush. And shade it a bit behind the helmet, under the chin, above the helmet. A smaller airbrush stroke is for a more concentrated shading. Let's do the highlights with a white airbrush. These highlights really help communicate the different levels of his facets. And just clean it up a little bit more. And the helmet is basically done. But I like to add backgrounds to fill the page a little bit more and to have a more dynamic composition. So on a layer beneath all the refined layers will be our background layer. Since we filled the mask with 100% opacity colors, drawing anything beneath it won't appear at all. For a little bit more depth, let's add a cast shadow on the vignette itself. And the Iron Man Mark V helmet is done. I hope you enjoyed this. See you in the next sketch. Thanks!